I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Steve, if you would.
Dear Lord, please be with us as we deliberate the business of the county today. Help us, Lord, to understand and do your will and do the will of the people. Help us, Lord, to just be good and be kind as we go about this business. I ask all these things, Lord, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, a little bit change of order here. We're going to put Tony on hold for a little bit and ask Shelley to come up if you would and go through her clerk's report. Oh, wait, go
Do you
ahead.
have a copy of it?
Yeah, I emailed them each a copy, and there's one physical copy there. Mainly, what the former clerk,
Pull it up on email here. I should be okay.
the former clerk had brought over like one page. Shelley has several pages, so I think at one time a commissioner had a question as to why, and I said, I really don't know. So I thought Shelley, since she was going to be over here anyway, might be able to just explain to you all why there are several pages to that report now.
Okay, so this is actually information that I compute into what is called Insight. Jim would use a spreadsheet, and that's why he would only use the one sheet. Whereas I use this setup, it actually automatically populates my information into this report. Of course, I have to add for ISETs because it doesn't actually add automatically. But with this report, you're supposed to provide with it ISETs, which is our child support, is actually it's balance book, the outstanding checks, which is attached, he should have already attached that previously. But what's additionally is I have, which is my Odyssey Trust account outstanding checks and the deposit that reflects as such. So that's why I attach it all together, because not only that, I put it on Gateway, so everything is on there and concise, and you know where to look for it. So it's actually, the clerks have that many outstanding checks on her.
So this is a much more complete report and pretty typical for what needs to go to the state.
Yes.
So,
And I assume easier for you to prepare for us. It's just a report coming out of your system? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that it did that when I first started doing these reports. It's like, oh, it grabs all my trust outstanding checks and deposits. I'm going to attach that. That is perfect, because that way you can refer back to it and why the numbers are where they're at.
Good.
Yeah.
so does this make it easier during the audit? Does it affect that?
Well, it does, because I do put it on Gateway.
Okay.
I've learned a lot with SBOA being here on a lot of digitizing some things. So this was just one aspect that I had already started, and it makes sense.
Then if you have other questions, of course, but otherwise we would have just made a motion to approve the report, entering it into the record, but
I just
I
explained.
appreciated you explaining to them what
I can do
Does
both
that make
sides
sense?
if you want. It's a state paper.
Can you just read every word in that report?
Yeah. So any questions on that? Yep, that's all that is.
Yeah, I don't have any more. You guys have any more questions?
No. Make a motion to accept the report.
Second. Very good. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, we've got a copy of the minutes as presented. Did
And
you,
I did correct the one thing that you had asked about, and I corrected one thing that Mr. Bailey noticed on there. Both of those were corrected.
okay. All right.
And I appreciate you telling me beforehand, so I don't have to print that upstairs.
I'm trainable,
Yeah.
Tony. I'm old, but I can still learn.
It's just I have to email up there and say, hey,
Change it.
could you change this? And then put the special paper in to print it, and then run it down here.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, Tony, what else do you have for us?
All right, we have first the Allied Weekly Health Insurance claims. And I consulted with Treasurer Dyer this morning as to what was in the checking account currently for health insurance. And before this claim is done, there was 195,000 and some change. So we have plenty in there. I will probably before next Tuesday, I'll move a little more over just to be safe, because the amount of the weekly health insurance claims this time is 96,227.35. And of that, medical is 67,542.22. Pharmacy is 28,685.13. There was no stop loss. So 96,227.35. And if you want to sign that, I didn't stamp your name on that.
All right, did you want to look at it first?
Motion approved.
All right, motion carries.
So Ed, I'll probably ask before next Tuesday to move 100,000 over, just because we'll have monthly coming up again at some point. No problem. All right. And then we have Eastern Alliance workers' comp claim, and that is in the amount of $8,748.22. I will pass that since it is private information. I'll just pass that for you all to look at. But it is $87,48.22.
Make a motion.
All right,
Here's the minutes, by the way. Okay. And then Steve Kuhn had emailed, I had sent an email out, I think, to all three of you. And Steve said that he had spoken to the group and spoken to Stan. However, I'd like to see it officially in the minutes so that, for one, Sheriff Mayhor is aware that there is approval, but the National Right to Life is asking to use the courthouse lawn for a rally on June 24th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And my understanding is if it isn't necessarily an official thing, they would be relegated to just the sidewalk, unless they seek approval. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, sidewalk, if they plan on just making sidewalk, then I agree, that's a public sidewalk, but if they want to get up on the steps and in the grass and all that, then I believe they should have approval from the body.
do we have any experience with this group? I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty peaceful.
It is, I don't expect a lot of people, I don't expect problems, but I just want to make sure, because I just saw the email, and that's why I sent it to you guys, see if they'd come here to ask permission, but if they're on the sidewalk, then I don't think permission is needed, that's my understanding.
Yeah, Rick reached out to me in April and I brought it to your attention then. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I didn't.
I just like it to be official.
Leading the Pledge of Allegiance that day. And that's what I asked about. You said you didn't have a problem with it. So
Okay,
It just needs to be a vote in public that you approve of the use of that, because if you don't do that and someone comes along and wants to protest about the rally and contacts the sheriff's department, and there's nothing official that was done, he legitimately could make them all move to the sidewalk.
make a motion to approve. Second.
okay, motion carries.
Now I feel better.
As long as
So
you
did
feel
they.
better, Tony, we're all good.
That's really what's important.
Is that 10 to 11, Tony?
10 to 11 on the 24th, yep. Yep. The only other thing that I had, and if you want to bring this up later, it's fine. I don't know when you want to discuss it, but at the last commissioners meeting, I was asked to notify the insurance carriers that been approximately 60 days, that they would come to present why they should be the broker.
And this is the property insurance, not
Property casualty
We're talking to
insurance,
both
property-
groups of brokers
Property
right now.
casualty, yes, which
Currently, we're with
currently we're with
HIB.
Hill Group
Hill Group.
and Liberty Mutual's who they contracted, but Gravers, Bixler, and Hill Group were the three that came the last time. Any of those three could have gotten Liberty Mutual to, I mean, any of them could be the brokers for getting the insurance carriers that we have. I think what commissioners had directed is for one of them to act as the broker so that we get the best deal, the best bids out there every single year, and that they do the legwork to make that happen, rather than, and Dan can tell you for one, but when I'm trying to get all this information for all these insurance companies, and I'm constantly, hey, Dan, can you send that over again? And it's just, it gets pretty complicated. So acting as a broker, I think, would really save the county a lot of money every year on that property casualty insurance. But the discussion today is, Hill Group asked, what does that look like? How do you want them to present? Is there a template? They even said they have a template that we could potentially go by. So I just need to let them know how that, are they all going to come the same day? Are they going to have a certain amount of time to talk? Are they going to, those are the questions they were asking.
Well, we'll have to put something together that outlines that procedure.
If they have a template, I would ask them to forward it on and we could take a look at it. I don't know that we'll agree to use it, but if they have something that they've used.
If I get that from Carla, I will send that over to Mark.
Yeah.
As well as you all, to kind of look at and get a sense of what that looks like. And then, you can decide, okay, we're going to have X this day, or however you propose to do it.
Yeah, to me, I don't see it as being any different than how we invited the auctioneers to come in and present their services as far as who we were going to choose to auction off the county farm
We
property.
just need to make sure it's on a level playing field where they're all bidding on the same thing.
Well, they aren't bidding on anything.
Or
All they're doing is
presenting.
they're coming in and selling their services.
Yeah.
As far as how they would service the county's business. I would see no dollars and cents being quoted at all. All they're doing is saying, here's our, give us your best sales pitch. When you go in and try to win new business, here's how we would go into a prospective client and try to win new business. Here's the presentation we would make. And if we can standardize that some, I could see us doing that, but.
Okay, I will see if Carla can send
I
that
don't
back.
want to make it so hard we don't do it. That's my fear, is that if we make it too hard, we just won't get it around to it. And if we don't get around to it pretty soon, we're going to be too late
I
to
would
do it
think
this
by
year.
August, you'd probably, no later than August, you'd want to have that come out. So, okay, I'll work with Mark and in what we need
And
to do.
it would be, I don't know why, if it were up to me, I would schedule them all on the same day like we did the auctioneers, just do them back to back to back. That way I've got all that information in my head and I don't sleep
Yeah.
a week or two between presentations, forget what they said and forget why I liked them or didn't like them.
Okay. Will do. That's all that I had then.
Okay, very good. Brad?
Good morning, everyone. The first thing before I sit down, I'll do is, when Paul and I were in last week and we discussed getting rid of the old dirt loader and EMS van, I've got the title, so I'm assuming Stan probably needs to sign the title to get rid of it, correct? So I don't know if we need a motion for him to sign it or.
Yeah, what is that? Is that trade in?
It's just, no, we're getting rid of it. It's junk.
Oh, okay.
Did you sell it to Cheech and Chong?
Up in smoke.
We could. I think we might have even said something to you about this, might brought back old memories, you might use it.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
Is
need
it 1939?
a motion
That
authorizing the
old-
chairman to sign
So
that
moved.
title.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Does that look right? So you're a seller.
Didn't know you had a 39 model out there.
80. It's 1980. but-
Oh, I thought you said Stanley.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got you. I'm with you now. Okay, I'm with you.
I worked from 85 to 2000.
This might have been there.
When I started, we still had a van,
Oh, the real van.
like an old
Yeah.
Dodge van.
Okay, interesting. So, next thing. I'd handed out some paperwork last week about the, buggy plates, gave you a little history on them. And so I just thought, you guys want to discuss that today? You want more time to look at it, or?
So what are you recommending as far as raising buggy plates to?
You
I don't
know,
have that sheet in front.
yeah, so it's been $120 a plate since 2017. You know, and obviously things, you guys have all said it before, things go up every year, and we haven't raised it, which was good for the customer. You know, but
Yeah,
also going along, it just, everything goes up.
Yeah, we've got to research that because I know last time we did that, we held it.
Had a lot of public meetings.
Yeah, we had a
It
public
It involved the
meeting,
wheel tax.
but I think it may have involved a public hearing on increasing fees. So let's figure out what we got to do.
well, and I think part of the change back in 2017 was making them put the sticker on. That's what,
And that was part of it too, because it actually stated in here, you know, that was met with great resistance.
yeah,
It's putting the sticker on the buggy itself.
because I had people tell me in the parking lot afterwards, it's like, look, I don't mind paying the money. I just don't like the
Yeah,
additional registrations.
Oh, yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
so there basically needs to be quite a bit more done to that. Okay.
All right, we'll look into it here.
Heating, burn, the ground, and all.
I've got a whole folder on it here. I'll find it.
because I mean, there,
To do.
you're not recommending any changes in the process other than just
Now, the process itself is fine.
changing the fee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the, for the amount of usage, I feel it'd be time just to do something.
Okay. Yeah, if we need to do a little bit more research and come back with a recommendation.
Okay.
As far as
Looking
a
for it.
specific increase, I know that in 2017, I think they doubled the fees from $60 to $120.
Hey. I am missing one. Where'd the world go?
Jim probably stole
No, I had 4 folders here and I'm missing one, so I don't know if I left it in the truck or I don't think I stuffed it in here. So if you remember, it's been quite a few months ago. I presented some for the federal, I was applying for the federal maintenance and bridges.
it.
And so we had some engineering prices and then the federal just stopped. They had no money. So I went back to that engineering firm and they revised all their prices. So I was going to present that today. I don't know if it's out in my truck or where it's at, because I know I had them to come here. I got 2 of them for that. And I can always wait and do the next one next week, I
You didn't
guess.
stick
So-
it inside your clipboard, didn't you?
No, that's what, it has to be out in the truck. So I guess we can do those 2, and then I've got another one for another proposal for engineering, so sorry about that. I'll bring the other one back next week.
Because those were kind of
You know what?
priced pretty high.
That's the one I need, that's the one I haven't figured in. Oh,
Well, if you want to run out and get it, we can kind of work through the agenda and then have you come
so
back.
would that be
up.
all right?
Sure, yeah.
Happens to me all the time, Brad. You worry about it.
He's so aggravating.
What year did you say that?
Just have an excuse. I'm old.
See what happens when you don't bring Paul with you?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Are you okay if we just bring Rick up?
Yeah,
in the
actually, that was
meantime?
the other things I needed to talk about. So yeah, if you're fine with that, sorry about that. I'll go.
Okay,
See.
if you're okay with that, Rick, are you ready? You want to come up and? Rick and your cohorts?
Yeah, I brought some friends along today. This is Gene Blakey. I don't know if you guys know Gene. He does a lot of our electrical work and our security. What we're handing out to you is,
No, I think I got him.
quotes for the power room, getting that wired up. There should be 3 of them in there in the scope of work. I brought Gene to answer any questions that you may have on it.
These things that would be
Generator.
outside of the ARPA generator project, or is this continuing to be part of that generator?
This would be the generator project, part of the generator.
This is part of that ARP money.
Yes.
This is part of what I suspect will come in higher than what was originally approved.
Keep in mind, this is just getting the wire and getting things done in the power. This is not hooking up the generator, setting the generator, and getting it down into the basement.
Not related. He was worried because there's a Stoppenhagen on one of the pages.
Oh.
Conflict of interest.
I need to sign a form for that.
I think we asked him, it's really no relation there, right, Stan?
Not that I know of, but, you know, with the, living out in the country, you know.
When I say, if I meet someone else, last name Blake, you say, how you related? I said, we came across on the same boat. I just don't know how.
There you go. And I think we probably came across on the same boat, yeah. Okay, so the first one you're gonna talk about is, we've got the generator project. We got the power room project and generator project, so I think, do you want to talk about them one at a time, or how do you want to address those?
I think we're just wanting to present to you today just the power room project.
Gotcha.
But that is still under the generator.
And it's still under the generator.
It's not
Yeah.
separate.
There's kind of 2 phases here. You might say we skipped over phase 1 and went to 2 in some respect, but we have 2 different phases here. This is one that we're ready to present to you today to get approval, hopefully, to get that wired up. This is where the UPSs are going to be. Some fuse boxes, our door panel controls in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Gene, you drove or wrote up the specs for them to, and I don't know if you want to kind of highlight some stuff as far as what's gonna happen in that power room.
Okay, well, the scope of work was driven by Mike's needs as far as current and future power, not only in the existing server room, but the future server room and the associated cooling devices needed to maintain that area. So we had many discussions on what the current power supply is for current equipment. And then what came to light was as his equipment, and I think you should speak more to that, Mike, how your equipment.
As a new equipment comes in, we'll have some overlap of dual equipment that's in there. And right now, what we have in that room, we're already maxed out as far as power. And we can only run half the air conditioning right now because we don't have enough power to run the other half of the air conditioning. And so when we bring new equipment in, and there's going to have to be some overlap where we have to run the old servers while we're bringing in the new equipment and then converting applications and so on over to the new servers, that we're going to have double the air conditioning, double the electrical, and have double the UPS capacity in that room during those times. If you take, for instance, the overlap that we got just with the sheriff's software right now, it's like months that we have to have both of them going while we're getting the new software installed. They have to continue to use the old. And then once they cut over, they just need to have the old stuff running for a while for historical reasons. And so I look at an overlap might be a good consideration as 1 year before we get everything migrated over. Because this is a good time when we do that, that we can get to later versions of the software and so on, which normally means a new install of various software titles that we have. And so it's just a really good time to do all that stuff while we have that. So we can be running off the old while we're putting in the new. Once we get everything tested, we'll migrate the data from the old to the new. And then we can continue on. Then when we get everything migrated, however long that takes with all the applications in the county, then we'll shut this stuff down and do asset disposals on it. And then what I want to do is I want to get kind of with you guys on this and say, I want to do this migration of hardware basically because of what we're seeing out in the market every 5 years. That we're doing a forklift upgrade of hardware every 5 years on the server, on the storage, of all that stuff that we need to do. And so then we can get to a budgeting aspect that we really need to get in consideration of how we're going to make this work. But right now, this is kind of a broad future-looking step to try and get our facilities so that when we do this migration every 5 years, we don't have to continuously try and figure out how we're going to do this update. We just take care of it now. We make sure we have double the air conditioning, double the power, double the UPS and all that stuff. And we can just roll in. We don't have to worry about power and those sorts of things and overheating taking place. So that's the purpose of this.
So in order to accommodate the concurrent systems, we need to move some panels out. We need to put additional racks in. We need to move the fire suppression into the next room. So we can have enough racks to run both servers concurrently.
Yeah, right now we would get hit upon some auditing issues in that room if we stuck the additional racks in to accommodate this equipment. They would be right in front of the power panels, which we've got to have 3 feet of clearance and we don't. So they have to be moved out into that power room. So, again, we're thinking about this ahead of time. So we have to move it back out into there. To bring the power in, we're going to have conduit that's running into that while our fire suppression is right in the way in that corner as well.
So we're just gonna move it on the other side of the wall. And
And that's the
so,
way it's shown in the drawing here with it already moved.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So,
from the electrical standpoint, we've got the power room that's all ready. It's finished, painted, the floor's leveled, and you've already started.
I put the permanent lights in, I put the wire duct in for the circuits from the UPS devices, from the utility panel feeds to the UPS devices, which are rack mounted. And then the UPS circuits going back to the UPS panels, which will distribute those to circuit breakers to each individual outlet for the racks in the server room. So we've not only designed moving the electrical, but increasing the electrical capacity, the amperage capacity to run not only the current equipment, but the redundant equipment, and then a future server room, which we anticipate growing into at some point in the life of the service here. So the existing electrical service in the building has the capacity to put this added load on it. It's just having to get it from the boiler room basement up to where we can manage it. And I looked at it, scope of work was basically designed as if I had to write a description to the commissioners of how I'm going to install it, this is what I would do.
So the scope of work, you've got 3 bids here from Shambaugh, from Service Electric, and from Coppersmith.
Correct.
And so I know we looked at these Thursday, and that's what we're looking at today. So,
Are these all the comparable, this one from Copper Smith, that's the same project?
That's the same scope of work that they used to develop their bid.
They're that much higher than the other two.
I think, as Gene had stated, they probably don't have the tools to do it, and they probably included that in there, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't ask them for an explanation of their numbers, I'm kind of looking at a crystal ball thinking, well, maybe it's lack of experience in the building or just lack of confidence of doing that project and needing equipment, but the price you can see is significantly higher than the 2 other competitive bids.
Yeah, because in the, well, we just reviewed the ARPA allocation summary here, just the council meeting, so back in, it was in October 21, there were funds allocated from ARPA for the generator project, power project, which is what, I think that's what this is a part of. And it's not specifically generator, but it's related to, that's part of what needs to be done to make it work. And we approved, we had bids on the generator here a few months ago, and that was just under 150,000. So out of that 300, we know we've got 150 committed basically. That's right. So then we've got another 150 still in this line item for ARPA, but we also are gonna get bids or quotes depending on cost to actually set the generator. Remember, that's a separate.
And run the power down the alley.
Yeah, so.
Transfer switch.
So then the question's gonna be, well, what do we estimate that to be, and is that gonna put us over this 300? Because,
It will.
yeah, we'll have to go back to the council would have to approve, funds for setting the generator. I mean, I know we got a generator bought, it's coming, so when it gets here, we need to be ready to hook it up. I understand this is a part of the process. But we'll want to make sure we've got an idea on where any additional funds are going to come from.
Rick, if you were to estimate, just ballpark for me, where you think everything that we've been discussing as far as being associated with this generator project, is that going to be over the 300,000 by 10 or 20,000, or is it by 100,000?
I would say you're probably looking at maybe
200,000 over the 300,000?
originally, Steve, on this, what we did was we put this into Fund 1140, which was then kind of stripped away from us to do all this work. So we had in there, we've always had funds. Rick and I have always had funds in 1140. And if you look back in 2021 or 2022, I think that we had almost 300,000 figured on this part.
Council zeroed that out. Is that where we're at with that?
Yeah, that's what we're up against. So we'd have to go back in there and ask for that to be taken out. We, as it turned out, when we came in 2022, we had no idea that that was zeroed out. And so that's where we're at. But those funds, that wasn't earmarked just for that year. They've always been kind of in that fund so that we could do things like do repairs on the buildings and those sorts of things. I think 1140, that's what it's designed to do, is to do repairs.
If I were to guess, the reason council zeroed that out is they wanted a voice in that prior to the money being committed. That would be why I would have done it if I were on council. Probably not that the money wouldn't be spent, but that they wanted to be aware of that money as it was being spent.
Yeah. But that's what the plan was, because we didn't have an idea of what a lot of these costs were going to be, but we knew what the cost of the generator was going to be, and we knew some other costs that we could really pin down to come up with that figure of 300 and some thousand. But the rest of it was kind of nebulous, you know. We start to do the construction, what's going to happen, and it seems like in this building, almost all of it was the worst that could happen down there in that first floor, but it looks really good right now.
Yeah,
all the work that's taken place.
I don't disagree with the fact that we need to go forward with this, Stan, but I'm a little uncomfortable calling it the generator project when we're going to be over that generator project approved funding by 60%. That's a huge underfunding that I'm uncomfortable with.
Well, and looking at 1140, there's just under $300,000 in 1140. So that may be, you know, we may have to approach that CUME fund for 1140 also to continue to fund that.
I'm in support of this, but that sticker shock of between 300,000 and approved and a $500,000 kind of anticipated expenditure in there feels like too much.
Well, it looks like you had some building, well, there was building and facility upgrades necessary to accommodate the generator project, so maybe that ought to be paid out of CUME cap.
That's what I'm wondering if maybe we ought to start carving up that generator project into this really would have been paid out of CUME cap, and then if we take that back to council and say, now, you approved $300,000 ARPA funds for generator project. Here it is. We also have this infrastructure improvement that's going to total another 200,000. We either need to take that out of 1140, or we can create another ARPA request for the additional 200,000. I'm just not comfortable going forward with this, saying it's generator project when we're that big of a miss on the generator project approved funding.
But just as you stated right there and explained that, that's what our mindset was going into this.
I hear you. And maybe council's already aware of that. Maybe they're expecting that.
How much is in CUME cap?
1140.
About 300. Okay, but the issue there is having sufficient funds appropriated.
They'd have to appropriate
Yeah,
it.
they just got
Council kind of zeroed out those budgets so that
Yeah.
they would have to go before council.
Yep.
I'm still trying to figure out how all this works. I guess still plead the new guy yet for another few months, right?
Well, Julie Marie
Or years?
will have to, however you want to approach funding this, Julie Marie will have to do a resolution, either amending or creating a new, however she will need to do that. It'll have to be a resolution before council to fund however they want to fund it.
Well, and traditionally, Cume Cap and Cume Court have been used for building infrastructure improvements for courthouse, this building. That's what those funds are for. And then, you know, the money that is, and it's a tax generated fund, so it generates money every year that goes in there because it's a Cume fund and it stays in there year to year. But the council still has to appropriate expenditures out of that fund. And so even though there's plenty of money, it sounds like, in the Cume Cap fund, they still need to make an appropriation so that the council, or so that the commissioners have the ability to authorize an expenditure.
I guess I'm trying to figure out how to word a motion. I would make a motion to approve this pending approval and direction from council as far as how they want to fund it.
Yeah, pending appropriation and
Yeah.
approval of the county
Well,
council.
right now, in the generator, request, there's a balance of 238,529. So out of that, we're still gonna have to take the generator cost itself at 150. So just for the power room, we've got a quote of 71.3 from Service Electric. So, we, just for that power room, and then that's not taken into the wiring for the generator itself, which we've got another quote of 252,654. So yeah, that 252 is probably gonna be more like what we're gonna need over, without doing the math,
So
so.
you're right, Stan. So if this was approved and we do it under the generator, we have money to do this, but you're getting to the bitter end of it. That's already appropriated, but you wouldn't have money appropriated to set the generator and get the wiring down the alley and into the basement. But I believe we still have sufficient funds that would pay for this particular phase of this project.
We do, but I feel uncomfortable knowing that we have the generator out here, we have the installation of the generator, which to me are naturally part of the generator project. But we've got this that's not really part of the generator project that we want, that we're talking about including in that funding. I feel like I feel like we're trying to do something here.
I think we're trying to, looks to me like we're trying to put too much in on a generator fund that really doesn't have to do with the generator fund.
Let me expound a little bit on the reason it's considered under the generator fund. Currently, the generator system operates the control panel in the server room, which then feeds power to the UPS device. So we have in the perfect world, a limitless amount of power running the UPS to keep all the servers running. The new power room will not be connected to the existing generator system because it's going to be larger than what that generator can generate. So without having the new generator system feeding the building, we have a limited amount of power feeding those UPS devices in the event of a power outage from the utility company. So it's not necessarily to make the generator run the building, but it is critical to power the IT equipment in the event of a utility outage to keep those UPSs charged and powering his servers.
I understand where you're, but the reconstruction of the rooms and everything else, we took that out of the generator fund, correct? That shouldn't have been out of the generator fund, do you think?
Yeah, that's why I just feel like we're getting so many things that are kind of related, interrelated to maybe the continuity of service plan. But if I were looking strictly at the generator project, I would say new generator plus installation, maybe plus some rewiring to get the generator power in the right place. I would think that would be what I would just off the top of my head think would be part of the generator project and covered in the $300,000 ARPA fund request. This feels like this is a little outside of that request. And I just want to make sure that we're being fair and honest and transparent with council as far as how we're spending that money and
Well, I can tell you the federal auditors right now are asking, well, Mark's had to get us some stuff and Mike had to get us some stuff where they're asking for contracts, they're asking for everything associated for 21 and 22 to prove how we're spending that money. Is it all on the up and up and all that kind of stuff? So they will continue that when we get audited for this year. This will be looked at as
ARPA
well.
funding.
Yes.
ARPA funding.
Well, they're looking at other grants too, but the main focus right now is all the ARPA stuff. So we have to be aware that next time we're audited, they'll be looking at everything we're doing now. So we just have to make sure that we do, listen. Mark's office, they are the attorneys that were hired for legal and consulting on all the ARPA stuff. So I think we need to work with Mark and Julie Marie. And then I think they consult with Barnes and Thornburg if they have questions so that how we're doing it is the appropriate way. Is that correct, Mark? So,
Yeah,
So I think I'll stand by my motion to approve so long as prior to the work beginning, council is aware of and approves funding.
although some of it, some of it, is some of that already done? Or
No, this
this is all the new electric stuff?
none of this is done yet.
So I guess, speaking for these guys and myself as well, going to be tough to wait a whole month to get that done because as it is right now, there currently are some issues with power and with servers and so forth because I don't know what the answer is to that.
Well, the funding's currently available with the balance that's still in the generator fund. So if you're okay with them moving ahead right now with the work in the power room, then that would make it available. But then the work, as we continue to wire for the generator, pay for the new generator, that would.
I'm just not comfortable with that. It feels too far outside what I would have, if I were on council, what I would have perceived to be the generator project. And knowing ahead, I mean, if we knew we were going to have some money left in the generator project, what's been approved to pay for, I'd be okay with that. But knowing that we've got a big miss anticipated already, and then to continue to add parts and pieces that, in my opinion, are not part of the generator project, just because we've got funding approved and we can move forward, I just don't think that's being, I don't think it's being fair to council. And I really believe council took that money outside of the appropriations so they could have a voice in it as it was being appropriated. And I feel like that we're doing an end run around that desire.
Well, I think to Gene's point, I think it is part of the generator project by supplying the IT equipment with the new generator, whereas the
Well,
old generator.
as I understood it, it's part of a continuity of service work that needs to be done. But the generator really won't tie into this or tie into the UPSs. The UPSs are built there as the power source in the event of a power outage that is outside of the generator, that will not be a part of the generator. So the generator will power the building, the UPSs will power the IT equipment.
The generator will take over because the UPSs do not stand for very long.
Okay.
What they're rated on. I put a 30-minute to 1 hour. a power outage. And when those batteries run out, they're now gone. So different than with the refrigerators upstairs, those UPSs were rated for 4 hours at that point. So that gives them time to move those vaccinations and everything else they have to a different location if they need to, Wells County, if they anticipate the power outage is going to be too long. But the UPSs will only hold for like an hour, maybe. And that's going to be half of that once we double the equipment, unless we get another UPS into there that will make it last for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Then the generators have to kick in before that hour comes up, or we're going to have to shut things down. And so that's all the lead time we got, Steve.
I stand by my motion, Stan. I'm in support of the project, but I don't believe we have the funding approved to move forward with it. And I would make a part of my motion that the funding be approved prior to the work beginning.
When is the generator expected to get here?
November, December, possibly the transfer switch before.
So if we took this to council next month, and they made a decision on the funding, on the quotes that we've got to do work in the power room and the panels, and the work that they're gonna do to wire up and set the new generator, you know, how long do you think that would take them? I mean, because I guess it seems like that's work that could be done before the generator ever gets here.
It would be nice if it was, then when it got here, what we gotta do is hook it up to the generator.
Right. So I mean, if we went to council next month and explained this to them and got funding approved, whether through additional ARPA requests or out of 1140, I mean, we wouldn't be getting too far behind, or I don't know how long that they're gonna hold these quotes, but.
Well, that's, my concern would be lead time on equipment, installation equipment, what's available, and then getting on the contractor schedule to get in and get started. I mean, once they're on site, I would think the generator equipment, now the slab work would take some time. Start to finish, it might be 3 months. There's some coordinating issues with having the power out during off hours for them to do work. So, you know, that's going to have to be scheduled. So you might be 3-4 months from the time they start to ready to set a generator. Power room equipment, you might have 2 months in there of time. Again, it could be extended because again, we're going to have a scheduled power down day. It does interrupt the workings of the building. The transfer of power is going to be very tedious because we can't lose any servers, any power for the servers during that time. So that's going to be a very tedious project.
So the work in the power room, I mean, there is money in that fund to pay for that part of the work. So I don't know whether we could go ahead and do the power room work and get some of that equipment ordered with the money that has already been allocated in that fund. And then we would have to next month wait for the additional appropriation to do any additional work beyond that. So.
Well, you got a motion, so I think you need to act on that.
Go back over your motion again.
Make a motion to approve the work subject to council identifying the source of funding prior to the work beginning.
Well, and that's part of the discussion is we've got money approved. So when we look at the scope of work, are you asking that, you know, because part of it's already funded. So that's what I'm wondering whether
The funding you're referring to is the ARPA funding for the generator project. And my contention is this is not part of the generator project.
Yeah.
That's my contention. And if you tell me it is, then I'll change my motion to denial, because I don't believe this is part of the generator project. If you tell me that's the source of funding, then I cannot support that.
Yeah, so the motion is motion to approve this work, which would be the low bid, $71,300, subject to appropriation and identification of the funds to pay for this work by the council.
Now, if you take it to council and council says, yep, we'll pay for it out of the generator project and we're gonna double that ARPA request to 600,000, then that's council's decision.
Right, they may do that.
They may.
They may.
I don't know.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion carries. So what we'll do is get on council's agenda, and if you're okay with coming back to council next month, then we will decide on the funding for both the power room project and the generator project. And
So be prepared to bring all documentations for the generator.
yeah, I would say that this plus the generator project, and then we will approach council and with the recommendation on funding and.
Now, those numbers you have may change in front of you because of this lapse of
Right.
a month.
I would just paint as complete a picture as you can for council as far as what that generator project's gonna look like once you're ready to flip the switch and turn it on so that they don't get surprised.
Okay. All right. Well, one thing I have to say is, from what we've talked to Gene and Rick and Mike, I've heard nothing but compliments on the work that Gene has done himself, but also to develop the scope of work that was complete enough to get these bids. Because previously on projects, we've had to pay for high dollar for somebody to develop that scope of work to get bids. And so what he's done is he brought a real value to these projects.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got some invoices too that were still
Okay.
here, and it revolves around this topic, so I got funds available. Yes.
While he's handing that out, and, the elevator, it passed inspection, there's
Yay.
there's some lines that are going through the ceiling that we have
I
to
got some of
log.
those right, so I
Yeah.
can pass it
But they
to Steve.
Fire.
This is fire suppression.
But other than that, the past,
Coming out of 1138, 42,500. I got like $200,000 in there.
In operation, then, right?
it will be probably by the end of the day.
And so that's 6,000. The additional equipment is the big one, is 22,000.
It's coming out of the same line.
Same line item. There. And the racks that go into the power room have already been bought, but it's coming out of the same fund, 1138, 42,500. And it's well under $200,000 it's on that.
Yeah.
So we got that done, get out of Harvard.
Good.
We were looking for that, so.
Good deal.
So if you want.
When is that?
As soon as I can get some cleaning up done, it should be on today. Should be today.
500.
Stan's gonna let me take these up with me, so I have them ready to go.
Did you get this?
I did not.
We added UPS.
I was hoping Tony would read
Double
into
the
this.
equipment, so that's 20, yeah, same
Is that
fund.
it, John?
Tell us.
Is that it?
Thanks, Rick.
200,000 in that one.
So I've got those two, and this
And then
one,
this one too, same place.
1138. Okay.
And I don't know if you guys want to make a motion to approve
Tony,
that.
I'll make a motion to approve those. I don't have the numbers, but. I'll make a motion to approve
1138.
Those three invoices.
All
Second.
So I'll take these up for my minutes and everything, but I assume you're going to enter them in the remote claim to send them to us to get on the claim cycle.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it if you were going to do it, then we.
No, I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Because I found out that me doing all that and these conversations with State Board of Accounts, it's a lot better if they
Yeah.
talk to me about this whole
Yeah.
thing, because I've
Well-
went through multiples of today and I was able to
Yeah.
clear stuff out and give them invoices and quotes and sign contracts and the whole works.
That's why I emailed you when they were asking me for stuff.
It,
I
it
said,
just makes it so
said
much
Mike
easier.
can explain this a lot better than I
Yeah.
can.
I mean, things dealing with parts and they show up and we don't get invoiced until they got the
Yeah.
parts in. And
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so it just works so much better.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Ed, did you have anything for us?
I do, but do you want to catch Brad first? That's fine, go ahead.
Oh, that's right. Forgot all about Brad.
That's all right. Don't want to forget Brad. I don't care how you want to do it, 'cause I'm the one who forgot.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Reasons. I go follow money, talk with money. Okay, so the three preventative maintenance, the deck overlays we were looking at, got, money turned down. So went back to USI and they took another look at their figures. And basically, like we explained, federal projects are a little more in depth, but still, they brought their figures down quite a bit. So for bridge number 58, it was 95,000 and they brought it down to 56,300. And do you want me to go through each one so you know kind of an overall? Probably be better. Okay, bridge number 155, they went from 101,800 down to 63,100. And then bridge 142, which bridge 142 is actually the longest, the biggest bridge. It's gonna be a little more involved, but they still went from 105,400 down to 83,700. So overall, they basically brought their prices down $99,100 on all three projects total.
So that was because federal dollars.
That was a lot of it, yes. The federal was a lot more involved. And so by doing this locally or on community crossings, then they can bring down the engineering prices also.
And that's just to design the.
This is just the engineering for the, and yeah. I got another one here too. Not from them, this is from a different,
How come I never got my engineer?
well, sometime here I can show you a little more detailed. So twin pipes out there on 650, 800 south and 825 south, I'm sorry, and 650 west, the twin pipes that are there. Us of Wells County, by the way, the project that we worked together on that one bridge is done. And, you know, I brought this up before that that's going to increase what's coming to ours. And these twin pipes have a problem where everything catches on the middle. So I asked Silvalcon to just give me a price on that. And now that would be taking out both those big metal pipes and putting in a single structure that measures 19 feet wide by 7 foot tall. So it's one opening. And their engineering fees for that was 61,600. It's what they quoted me.
That's just to draw the plan.
That's just the engineering on it. So it kind of gives you none of it's cheap.
Brad, I go back to wondering if we shouldn't be bidding these engineering services out.
The, when I first started overseeing this, I asked, they don't bid engineering out.
You know who tells you that? The engineers.
Well, in the state code, now, state code also says you don't have to bid out engineering.
It's professional services, but you can get quotes from different engineers and then you go
Yeah.
through, you go through
Yes.
a process though to.
But
to
as
look
far
at-
as like, when I think bidding, you advertise and do all that.
But
That's what,
I guess we're looking at awarding one firm $50,000, $150,000, $200,000 worth of work here.
250,100.
Work that they originally bid it at $300,000 and the price went from $300,000 down to $200,000. I realize that the federal may have been a little part of that, but it's hard for me to believe that $100,000 worth of that work was just associated with the federal grant. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But what do you give them when you say, what did you give them to get that number? What information did you give them to say,
So
give me a quote or give me a proposal?
yeah, basically, we have our bridge inspections done, that 4-year
Okay.
time frame.
Okay.
So when they go through and do that, they put, I know you guys have seen the books they give us with all the information. That also gets downloaded on NDOT's website.
Okay.
So basically, you give those firms, they look at all that information, and then they will come out on site and look at it also. And so they do that look at, if that's what you want us to say,
Okay.
the information, look at the site, and then that's when they come up with that price.
But you think it's not reasonable to say, to give that same opportunity to 3 different engineering firms and take the lowest proposal?
I'm not saying if that's the direction, that we would like to go, that's fine. I don't know that. I know my predecessor that did this, they never bid out the engineering. And I will admit, I've used a lot more firms to try and get a lot of this done. And I'll admit that, instead of sticking with just one. But also, my feeling is if you give one firm all this work, how soon are they gonna be able to maybe get it done? So, I understand what you're saying too. I do.
I'm just,
I
if the information is specific enough
And they all have the same
that you can get a
information.
proposal and they all have the same information, I'm not seeing the downside to offering that same information to, say, your 3 primary engineering firms
Yeah.
and allow them to compete for the business versus just on
And
your.
if they realize they're competing for the business, then pencils might get a little sharper.
Yeah.
Or, I would want to understand if one of them just drops out and says, no, we don't work that way.
Yeah.
We don't competitively bid our services.
Mhm.
But I guess we won't know till we ask.
Yeah, no, like I said, if that's the direction you guys would like me to take, we can sure try it. And see what happens.
Let's try it on this one, see what
Okay.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
Try it on this one. See.
Okay, so on the 3, so you want me to do the other one also?
I don't know if you gotta do the other one, but if you do the ones that you've got
Yeah.
spec'd out already.
Okay. Well, not spec, they gave me a quote on their engineering. And
Okay.
they also, they gave us cost estimates because we had to have that fill out the application.
Oh.
Sure.
And then, but that was a cost estimate.
And, but what you may find, and I would be sensitive to this too, if they say, we're not willing to go through all the work
Yeah,
it takes to put a proposal together.
And that-
If we are
yes.
fairly well assured we're going to get the work.
yeah,
You may just be sensitive to that and say, hey, that's,
yeah, 'cause
we're
basically,
we're not going to propose because we're not going to do the work. We're not going to invest the 10 hours worth of engineering work it takes to put a proposal together if we aren't assured we're going to get the work. I'm just poking the bear here to see what happens, I guess.
and yeah, that's fine.
So what are we doing with the 3 bridges that he already mentioned that they lowered the price on due to the Fed? Are we saying to go out and seek other quotes to see if it's possible, or
What are
I
we doing with
think
that?
that's my preference, is to go out and see if we've got a couple of other engineering firms that would with us, be
Yeah,
willing
and
to
I'll-
quote the engineering services.
And I'll reach out to the other ones we've used other years and for other things, so
Okay.
that's not a big deal. So now the one with the twin pipes, the Civilcon, how would you like to handle that one?
If we did that project, would it be a community crossing?
It could be a community crossings, yes. And I'll be honest with you, I think this one here, we would see more effect of more immediately because of what has been done
To the west.
to the west. So like I said, there's.
So you feel more of a sense of urgency with
Yes.
that bridge than the
Yes,
other
correct.
three?
Yes,
Well-
these can always be engineered and done sometime. This one here, I think we need to do sooner than
Well,
later. I really do.
Maybe that's the one we need to move on.
And it's just, those have been in the waiting for a while, trying to get it figured out. But this one here, we knew was coming. The bridge is done now, so. So yes, so Civilcon Engineering,
And that's the twin pipes.
that is the twin pipes. That's to remove the two twin pipes and put in one single structure. And it'll be a concrete structure.
You wouldn't have near the mess there then, would you?
Oh, I know.
I'd make a motion on that.
Second. Accept, approve that one?
Is that just for the engineering or for the?
Yeah, no, for the engineering.
okay.
Yeah, because then we'll have to bid it out and do all that on the project
Gotcha.
itself. Whether it's community crossings or not, we'll have to bid it out.
All right.
And
make a copy?
Brad, feel free to come back and tell us that that's just not gonna work for you if it's
Yeah.
not gonna work. Yep, don't.
Yeah, I will.
You make a copy of that, so I have the names all right, the one that they just approved
Yep.
to seek engineering on.
Yep.
Just don't let the engineers talk you out of it though. I'm sure they would prefer not to have to bid their work.
Well, I've had that discussion with a few of them before, and I'll admit, like I told you, when I was due, I would ask.
Yeah.
And they're like, it just, basically, they don't do that, but. Thank you. And that was all I had today.
All right.
Did you need these, right-of-way acquisition things approved?
Well, that's up to you.
Yeah, are they just wanting to approve the offers?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yes. That's up to you. It can wait till next week too.
No, I think we can do it. This is Bridge 65, or Bridge what?
Bridge 5.
Bridge 5.
So if you remember, early last year, started engineering 3 actual bridge replacement projects. I don't remember, Steve, you might not have been on yet. So basically, there's 3 bridges that my predecessor had determined needed replacement done.
Mhm.
So I came in and said, well, if we get them engineered, as long as engineering's done, then you can do them whenever. And so they've been being engineered, and this one here is finally at the stage where we need to acquire a little more right-of-way to improve the bridge, or replace the bridge. And it was, one of them was like, what, 0.24? So anyhow, I gave these to Mark to let him look over. It's right-of-way offers, and there's only 2 of them that own all the ground around this bridge.
Has that been presented to the owners yet? I don't,
That I don't know. They just emailed me this, and
all right, give me the contact information for them and I'll ask
Okay.
them kind of where they're at in the process.
yeah, and that's fine. Like I said, it doesn't have to be today.
Okay, because I want to just know where they're at in the process. I don't want to, if that's not been agreed upon, we got to make sure that's, it's agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them is just 0.23 acres and the other is 0.241, so.
You want to wait to approve those then?
Yeah, I need
All
to
right.
find out where they're at in terms of their actual acquisition and discussing it with the landowners. I don't want to announce something and the landowners haven't.
Who would be doing that? Who's they?
Well, it'd be was it the right-of-way, we've got the right-of-way appraisals,
Yeah,
But
it's
it'd be
the
the
engineering firm
engineering.
that is doing all this.
got the appraisals.
Okay.
So sometimes, sometimes we do that, sometimes the
Yeah.
engineer acquires a right-of-way, but they'll use a separate appraiser. I've not seen this one before, but I've seen the form and I recognize what they're doing, so I just need to talk to them and find out where they're at in the process.
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, I can have these copies?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
do you care, I don't know how much time you got or are you, I just, I know Michelle's been patient with us, so I didn't know. But if you don't have too much, if you wanna,
No, go ahead. That's fine.
okay.
Where?
We've seen you patiently sitting back there
Oh,
waiting on.
She was staring daggers at you, Stan.
I was not.
I might have seen it wrong, I don't.
Yeah, you did. I think you guys already have the handouts, right?
I don't know.
I did.
Yeah, did you guys get those?
Here you go.
Yeah. I don't know, but
I think I forgot, I was supposed to pass them out, I forgot.
You did. I brought some for the,
It's not like I didn't have other things on my mind. Yeah, there's 3 of them.
oh,
Oh,
that's
okay.
okay.
All right.
I was dealing with a lot of harvest.
Oh, you guys
Well,
got,
then I'll take one back if you just have one.
Yeah, I have all 3 of them, I just forgot to
Oh,
hand them
you're
out
okay.
beforehand.
okay.
So just to recap, we've been around since 1973, so we just celebrated 50 years. People call in, schedule appointments, not the same day, usually at least 24 to 48 hours. If it's an out-of-town appointment, usually a couple weeks. Biggest asset to the county would be transportation and medical appointments, dialysis probably being the main one. Last year, we served 191 different seniors, and we provided over, I think it was close to 6,000 trips. I'll get that on there. We pretty much take them anywhere in Adams County that they want to go, even someone to go visit a relative, we do that. We only go out of the county for medical purposes. You can kind of see on the second side or the back sheet how many different trips we've provided and the cost or loss to the agency to provide those. So that's where the support from the different governments and from the federal comes into play. I mean, we are a nonprofit, so we're not making money, but if we didn't have support from everywhere, we would not be able to sustain the business. Just some other things that we've kind of brought to the county over the last year and a half, 2 years. Painting classes. I trained and became a SHIP counselor for the state, so that's the state healthcare insurance program. I meet with people, help them look at their Medicare, that sort of thing. Bingo, Tonio, you can just read, but we've been everywhere. We're doing our 4th bus trip coming up next month, going to Lake Wawasee. They have a boat there that you can do a lunch cruise on, so we're providing that. We're doing another dinner theater in the fall, so just a lot of opportunities for the seniors to get out and stay involved in the community, to give back what they've given to us over all these years. So we've been fortunate enough to get financial support from the county, from all counties for decades. Last year, we only increment up $500, $1,000 a month or a year. That would be nice. $500 a month. Last year was 36,000. I was hoping, I'm asking for all the different governments that I go to. It's an 11% bump for this one. I'm going to be asking 20,000 from the city, which is a couple thousand extra as well. I just want to get our numbers up so that these first 2 years of public transportation, we're in a demonstration phase and we're not getting the federal state money that we will be in the 3rd year. I'm just trying to get our budget up to where it is. That way we can make sure that we're financially responsible. I have
Mark,
no,
I've never done this before, but I sit on her board. I mean, there's no reason I have to abstain from this vote, is there?
What is it a vote on?
for our annual
For
allowance.
funding.
No, I don't believe so.
So,
It's an annual thing.
Yeah.
and if that's too big of a jump, I understand. I'll take whatever we could get. I am asking for all the different governments that I go to for more money this year, just to kind of get us where we need to be.
So, yeah, what's your thoughts? I think she's, by being out at the Merit Center, she's expanded all of her programs and the board has, sees a lot of people in a lot of different activities. So,
Her budget's part of our budget, right, Stan? Am I
Yep.
remembering that correctly?
that's correct. So yeah, she gets 18,000 twice a year.
But I do monthly, so I get 3,000 a month, which is 18.
Oh, okay. Or that's what, we've spent 18,000 so far this year. That's what it is. So she's 37,000. Is her line item.
Gotcha.
So what's your thoughts on,
Are you looking for a motion up at the 40?
yeah, for her funding, so, and it is a countywide service,
I'll
so,
make that motion.
Second.
okay,
So we just need to build that into our budget then
Yes.
for
right.
this coming year.
I like your report, Michelle. It's
Yep.
very detailed.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
the teacher side of me. I ask Stan, I always have handouts and stuff to go, binders,
And
whatever.
treats, you
Yeah.
guys like
I
treats?
do, yeah.
Surprised I don't have a motion projector,
So,
I have one at the.
but I remember from school when
so while you're here, we're kind of continuing to have discussions with the city, and it looks like everybody's on board with, we're on board, council's on board, everybody's on board with acquiring property for your garage. The one thing that we've talked about is figuring out the building.
Right.
So, and Mark Wynn volunteered, he says, oh, heck yeah, I'll help her figure out that
Yeah, I'm
building.
gonna swing up and see him after this.
Okay, so. 'cause
No, I
mean,
think that'd be great. I did get my quote from Extreme Builders for the building, and it's definitely higher than what I had
Yeah.
because we added the restroom and,
I did talk to Adam over at Arnold Lumber.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about the metal trusses and stuff and, but I didn't realize they could span, he said with a wood truss, they can span up to 90 feet. And he said they may be working on spanning farther than that.
With the wood truss?
Yeah. Yeah, he said they've done buildings where they span 90 feet.
Huh.
And my thought was, you're gonna wanna heat the building, so you're gonna want a ceiling in it.
Mhm.
So it almost sounded like maybe a wood truss might be more practical, but yeah, he said, they had done metal trusses before too, if you need the long clear span with the high ceiling.
How big is your building, Mark? You have a metal truss building, right?
The one I sold that I missed.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was 48 by 72.
Okay.
So,
So if they could do a 90-foot truss, then my 30, they would at least be able to do the trusses.
Well, the truss, you're gonna go the narrow, you're gonna go the width with the truss.
Okay, so the 30 would be fine.
Yes.
I was thinking that it needed to be the 100, and I was like.
But
that's a
looking at
big
what
truss.
you're doing, I mean, it might make sense to go something that's 45 deep by maybe 45 by 80 or something like that, because then when you, and then you can have fewer doors, but you pull in and now you've got two bays and then you got a way to get out too, instead of just pulling in, backing out, pulling in and backing out.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, there's a couple different options, but,
Absolutely.
well, that's neat that you're going up to see. I think he'll
Definitely, if you
help
knows
you
about
with
it.
Yeah.
I just want to get something figured out. That way I can submit plans to the state. That way whenever, if we're able to pull the trigger, I'm ready. I don't have to wait on the state design release. It would be already ready to go.
Are we working on the interlocal agreement to get it? Okay.
yep, Clayton,
So-
they brought that up and we're working on that. So I think it's about done.
Yeah.
Ready? All right, well, thank
Very
you so
good.
much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Well, we appreciate what you're doing out there for sure.
I saw on the, is the Blankenship not with Golden Meadows anymore? No, so do they have anyone out there? Brennan, is he still there or is he? No.
No.
I saw like a bunch. Yeah, I just saw the job postings. I was like, ooh. Yeah, we're transitions. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
But yeah, we've kind of restructured out there.
Okay. See you later.
All right.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you for your patience, Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
attempt to be quick. You went through my monthly report last week, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, of course, I can answer those. The proceeds from the Golden Meadow land auction, after all the fees, all the taxes, everything was paid, we ended up netting $1,792,013.95. 1792013.95. And I've invested that in Trust Indiana. I got a sub account all set up. Golden Meadow Proceeds, which is the very same name as GM Proceeds, as Brianna put together for the fund. So my sub account is same title. It's netting 5.12% on a daily compounding. And Fred Velez earlier this morning asked, well, why didn't we do the 5.3% that I could get a CD currently for 6 months? Well, the 5.12% compounded daily, when that rolls over day after day after day, it's going to be very close to that amount.
What would that generate income per year in interest?
Per year at 5.12%, $91,751.11 per year. Steve asked me per month, and it's $32.25 per month.
So annually, we're getting about what, 36,000 in
Yes,
cash rent for that
Yes.
farm?
yes.
So.
And we were getting taxes on top of that, but we will continue to get taxes from the new owners.
So in a year's time, we will have advantaged ourselves by about $54,000.
Yes, 2.5 times. 2.5 times. I originally said 3 times, but that's when we were going to have more land. And we ended up keeping some of that land.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
so I think it's in a real good spot. The other part of that, it's instantly available. I can access that at any time. It's squirreled away in its own sub account. So, we don't want to touch it, but if we would have to for any reason, I can get it today. Okay?
Now, Ed, does the rent, I know there's like 6 or 8 acres out there we're renting. Does that just go into general, or where does that money go?
That would go into it a general. I don't have that set up for a separate sub account or anything. I could, but I don't really see a need to.
And remind me, Ed, the interest earned on that stays in that sub account?
Yes, yes. I could set it up either way. And on the CDs, I generally have that roll out. And because I want to show you the money that we're earning on that. But as far as the, this Trust Indiana account, we want to roll that over. We want that to show that it's earning money. Eventually we'll spend out of it, but at this point, I kind of want to see how far we can stretch that and how much we can make before we start doing it, before we start spending out of it. Okay, since I met before you last, I've had 2 CDs come due for a total of $2.5 million, and I rolled those over for a 6-month at 5.3%. So 6 months that'll fly by and that'll be available again. I doubt that we'll touch that at this point. There's no need to touch that for anything. So we'll see what happens with the rates and everything in 6 months. That's the best I could do at this point. And it's almost better because everything's kind of up in flux. I'd hate to tie that up for months and months and months. Okay? I do have, I think you'll find this interesting. The overall percentage collected at the banks this year for the spring collection was 43.38%. Last year was right at 40%. So we've had a little bit more that's paid at the banks. And I like that. They all 4 do a very good job for us. And I'm very thankful for that. Our primary bank does 63% of that. Secondary bank, 27%. 9% and right at 1%. So all in all, they bring in 43% of the $18 million we brought in. So that saves our staff quite a bit of
Do they
labor.
charge us for that?
No. They use it to get potential new customers. If you think about it, somebody coming in and it's handy to do that, maybe they can get them as a customer. And anybody can pay their taxes at any of those 4 county banks.
Okay,
So that works out real well.
good.
I do have a thing it's a company called Cash Vest that they've approached me. They would like the opportunity to analyze our investment strategy at a cost, but they guarantee that that their cost will be earned back within 1 year. And if not, then it doesn't cost anything. They know more than I do. I'll say that out front. And they just analyze what we're doing. I met with them. They like everything that I have laid out. I could see the benefit of it. I don't know that I can see the $10,000 a year cost it would cost us to do that. I think if I can just, me personally, along with drafting perhaps Steve Bailey and Bob Rhodes, perhaps Rex Moore, and just drafting those fine minds that have been in the banking business and are in the banking business, and just go over what I am doing on a financial basis. I've talked with each of them individually, and they're right along in line with what I'm doing. I think I could get the same benefit and not have to pay them any extra, But I did say I would run this by, and if you'd like some more information, we can talk about that in the future. But I don't know that I'm for it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't sound anything like anything that I would be interested
Okay. And that's fine with me.
in pursuing.
And we are just about ready to do the final settlement with everything. Right now, on the monthly report, it showed that we had right at $60 million of everything that's been on the books, but we're going to be doing 20 million or so of that in the settlement. We'll be right back to the 40 million or just shy of 40 million where we normally keep our daily cash books. So we're actually in real good shape. It's nice to have the funds to be able to do what we need to do rather than scratching and borrowing from this to pay for that. We're in a spot where everything is there that needs to be done. If Tony needs money to move for the health insurance reserve, we have that in reserve and we can move it. We can do that on a multiple different things that come up on a day-to-day basis. We're in good shape.
All right, thank you, Ed.
All right, thank you.
All right. Mark, did you want to have anything for us? Or should I ask?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Or do you want Shannon to go first?
Yeah, Jake, go ahead.
Shannon, no report.
Sorry to the chair. So last week, I met with the auditor's office and Viv out at Golden Meadows and Steve Bailey in an effort to organize some of their financial practices and put some more internal controls in place. So what we discussed and what we agreed on is that we would eliminate 2 of the petty cash boxes that exist in that office, just to tighten up things, make it a little, just take out the opportunity basically. So at my direction, Viv brought those 2 petty cash boxes into the auditor's office, had recount them as a second set of eyes, and then deposited them in the treasurer's office to go in those funds. So instead of the cash, they're just going to use the credit card, which obviously you have to have receipts for, and it's more managed basically. So I'm here asking for approval to actually close those boxes, and I have the report of collections that I want to enter into the minutes to support that those 2 petty cash boxes have been eliminated and the cash was turned into the county.
So how does that report work? Did Bree sign that since she counted the money?
Yes, Bree and Viv signed it. I wanted 2 people to sign it because obviously Viv has been in control of it for however long, but I wanted somebody else.
You just want to enter that into record?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so we
that's
take
okay.
a motion to enter that
Make a
report.
motion.
Second.
Okay.
And then Tony, I'll make you a copy of these if that's okay, or send them to you, whatever you want me to do. And then the only other thing I have was last week, I sent you guys a draft for proof, for a business card design for the county. So a couple months ago, we talked about having a standardized format for our business cards in addition to like our letterhead, our website and things like that. So the proof that I sent you guys, it incorporates our website format. So like our colors, our font, all that fun stuff already. And it has our logo on it. So I just didn't know if you wanted to make any changes to that or if you were ready to approve it or what you wanted to do.
Look good to me.
Looked good to me. I messaged you back, I think.
Okay, so you're okay with that one?
Do you need a motion on it?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Are all of them gonna say Mike Worley on them?
Yes, every single one.
Well, I'll be Mike Worley.
And I'm still gonna put together at y'all's direction a policy for business cards, just to say who can and can't, where they come from, kind of things like that.
Good.
So I'll follow back up with that when I have it.
Good question. Shannon, would you be doing the ordering in all this or?
So I need to wrap my brain around that. I think initially for the initial big one that we do, if there's elected officials or people who are eligible to get them, who need them, who don't currently have any, I should do like the big order so it's coming from one person. But after that, the people who get them would just go to reach out to the vendor, which is just Charlie down the road. It's just complete printing, so it's close.
Thank you. It's not about Benny.
Okay.
That's why I'm giving it.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. All right. Now, Mark or Cliff, do you have anything?
Next Tuesday from 6 to 9.
We'll find something here on I've got to locate my folder on buggy plates. It's a matter of figuring out where I put it. Question on that, so.
As to
No,
cost or,
number of,
cost or procedure or?
there's a whole procedure for it, so I'll find it. I'm trying to find it right now. And it's not finding it, but I know it's there. I can't search on my files from here remote over the office. I have to be there to search them. But we'll locate that. Then we've got obviously a couple interlocal agreements that we're working on here, so.
Good. So we've got the interlocal agreement with Decatur and then.
Decatur and then. Yeah. Well, the transportation plan. I've got a letter that, for the judicial study committee. Hopefully I get a meeting set up with the property owner there, so. When's your next meeting? Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Got it.
6 to 9.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at that proposed letter for the, establishing the ITU infrastructure committee. Is that anything you want to comment on or look at some more, or what's your thoughts?
I looked at it quite a bit. I felt like it was too broad and giving up too much control. I would prefer it go back to being just an IT steering committee versus a change committee. And I had given Clayton some feedback on it. Like I said, I just felt like it was giving too much control or too much authority from the commissioners to this committee. I see it as being an advisory committee. But in the second paragraph, when it talks about overseeing county needs for information technology, so on and so forth, when I think about oversee, I think that's authority. So just basically some feedback that I would give you. I would like it just to be technology and not infrastructure. I would propose that where it use words like control and oversee and approve, that those be advised, that those words be softened to being more advisory.
Review information and make recommendations on requests or something like that. Is that what you're thinking?
Because it is an advisory committee for sure.
Yeah, and so those were just my thoughts, and I did quite a bit of editing on it, to be quite honest with you, and I don't really need to go through all that, but those were just my general thoughts.
Is there any way that you could share your editing with Clayton and Mark?
I can,
And
I
then
can, but those are just my thoughts.
If you'd be
Again, I'm
willing
just-
to do that, then.
Yep, I
Because
certainly can do
it
that.
definitely is an advisory committee. And I like the idea of infrastructure from the standpoint of, as we've had to bring infrastructure in for the sake of the server room, the power room, the DMARC room, the generator. You know, I think the two have worked very well hand in hand.
And I think where you're talking about rooms and buildings that are IT related, I think that could be in the IT steering
Yeah.
committee concept. But when we talk about things like chillers and things that are just related to this building, I don't see why that committee should ever have to see that, those kind of things. I think Rick is very good at bringing those to us, and I would hope we're responsive and responding to that. So those are just, I can certainly provide my feedback. The other thing that from the makeup of the committee, I guess I don't see a need for the county attorney to be a standing member of that committee. And potentially Rick, although, you know, that's, but I can provide you my cuts on it if that would help.
I like having the attorney on the committee because we use them, but to your point, to have an attorney there every week for 3 hours, that I think, you know, I don't know that that's necessary. What's your thoughts, since you both sat on that committee?
No, I would say limit it, you know, I think our participation will be limited to those subjects where you think there might be some
Needs some
or
legal
factual
advice.
issues that come up, so
Do
yeah.
you want to even have a seat on that committee, or do you want to just be?
I'd be fine if we're just there in the role as county, you know, attorney. I don't think we need to have it's not a vote. I've never taken it as a voting role.
Yeah.
I think it's always been just, you know, to help map out the, you know, plans and answer any questions. But I've typically, you know, I've attended some of those meetings. I know recently Clayton's attended some of those meetings, but I mean, in the past, I've not, you know, attended every week just because I don't feel like I need to be there every week. If there's something that comes up, then fine.
Yeah, I would think if there's something on the agenda that the committee might want some legal advice on, maybe they reach out specifically to you and invite with an invitation, but not kind of that standing committee member was what my thoughts were.
You know, and I think that committee kind of grew, and part of the reason, you know, with having Mark on that committee was his deep knowledge of, you know, he's got a good IT knowledge, but he's also got a deep knowledge of the functions of the county, and it was just, you know, very valuable to bring it from where it was to where it is. But at this point, you know, maybe, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something where I feel like, you know, we, either me, myself, or anybody from my office needs to be there on a regular basis. I don't think it's necessary.
Well, and like some of the things with the interlocal agreements for providing services to Bern and Geneva and departments and those kind of things, you know, you just would have to do.
Well, yeah, those are things that we're gonna do outside of the meeting anyway,
Right.
so.
So, yeah.
But I'll get
But-
my thoughts on it.
But like as far as infrastructure, like on item 1, you know, paragraph A, establishment and implementation, review and maintenance of the county network technology and IT infrastructure, it does pretty much define that. So, you know, whether that was in the name of the committee or not, I don't know if that's important, but, you know, it does sound like it's defining.
I got grandkids here from Chicago. I only see twice a year. I'm gonna skip unless you're gonna do something big after I go.
We'll do, save all the big things till you're gone, John.
Okay. I want to see him.
Have fun, enjoy, Jim.
Yeah.
See you, Jim.
Take care.
So, but yeah, if you wanna, pass your edits on to them and, you know, cause I think it's a decision that has to be made here. You know, if we're gonna establish this committee, as an official committee, we have to be comfortable with it. So, all right. Well, good. Thank you, Greg. So. All right, anything else? Any other thoughts yet?
Looks like back in 2009, we had buggy plates at $60. So that was by yeah, and well, that's by ordinance, so.
So you think any changes would have to be by ordinance?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I might be able to find some of that. I know when it was taking place because we were on council when that was all being done. It was all connected to the wheel tax because,
It's 2016, so,
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
I've just gotta, so it'd be in the, I'll go back and look in the 2016 ordinances. That's probably where I'm gonna find it.
we had hearings in Monroe, we had hearings in Bern, we had all over the place with
And they were well attended.
very well attended.
So we have to have hearings to raise the buggy plates.
Possibly, I've gotta look at the statute
We
again.
did it, well, we had them at that time because I think we had to have hearings on establishing a wheel tax. And this was all part of it because people that drove vehicles and so forth were gonna have to pay more. They felt like buggy plates, because they're on the roads too, and they don't pay a wheel or surtax, so that was their way of paying their share. So it was kind of all done all at that same time.
Mhm.
It was kind of more of a courtesy to some of the Amish community that could maybe not get all the way up here. They went down there to their location to where they could get to it a lot easier.
Plus there wouldn't have been room in here for everybody that wanted it.
They were very well attended.
I think we filled up that 4-H meeting room where they eat there during the fair. We filled that. That was full.
Okay, well, if you wanna look into that and see what we need to do next.
See what we gotta do.
All right. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll open it up for public comment.
I think we already run
You're
everybody
the
off.
only two that have stuck with us, but then, Ed, if you can sit through a 12-inning baseball game, you can sit through a commissioner meeting.
It depends on if the Reds are winning or losing, right?
Well, as Heritage winners or losers.